Hi, I'm Ethan Green from NoSleeplessNights.com, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the gravity blanket. As you can see, I've got a few different ones here. That's because I thought it'd be interesting to try out the different versions that they offer, or the different options, be able to talk to you about those so you can decide which one might be right for you, and also be comparing the gravity blanket to some of the other brands of weighted blankets that I've tried this year. I'll be talking about the original gravity blanket, which is the single size with a microfleece duvet cover. Then I'll be talking about the queen size with the same microfleece duvet cover. Thought it'd be interesting to try out the single and the queen and talk to you about why I prefer the single size generally. Then I'll look at the cooling weighted blanket and talk to you about why, even though I don't think it's exactly cooling, it is more breathable than the original microfleece. And finally, I'll be discussing the new zipper system, which is something that I really like. And this is a way that they've decided to get around the problem of being very slow tying and untying the duvet cover if you need to wash it. And with their new zip system around 3 sides, it just makes life much easier and much faster. So let's start off with the original gravity blanket, the single size with a microfleece duvet cover. First point to note then is that the microfleece external cover of the original gravity blanket has a lovely soft and cozy feel to it. And I really like the intricate stitched grid pattern, which looks very stylish. Most weighted blankets I've used just have a simple flat finish or sensory dots, so for me the gravity blanket definitely impresses aesthetically. To remove the duvet cover, there's a zip down one side which is neatly tucked into the seams, and it's robustly attached with strong stitching. The original gravity blanket, or Generation 2 as they call it, has 16 loops and ties even on the single size to attach the duvet cover to the inner weighted blanket, and each loop has an additional button if you want to use it. So that's double the number that most brands use for single sizes. The plus side to that is that it keeps the cover nicely attached and helps stop the internal blanket pooling in the corners. The downside is that it takes a lot longer to unattach it for washing. However, the latest Generation 3 blanket has a new zip system which is much faster. I'll be talking about that later in the video. The internal blanket has a soft cotton cover with polyester fibre filling and glass pellets to provide the weight, which is standard for weighted blankets these days. The individual pockets that contain the beads are 6 by 6 inches. Some companies like Baloo and Weighted Evolution, for example, do have smaller pockets, but 6-inch squares is perfectly acceptable, especially since the stitching seems robust enough to keep the beads from spilling into neighbouring pockets. One potential downside is that only the cover can be machine washed. You'd need to hand wash the internal cover if you choose to. This isn't uncommon though, probably half the brands I've used have the same washing advice. As for actually using the gravity blanket, well, the soft feel and the warmth of the microfleece version makes this a good one to use while relaxing on the sofa. I also think that the pleasing aesthetic design makes it more likely that you'd want to use it outside of the bedroom. I'm not going to address in detail how well weighted blankets work in general in this video, but I will say that both my wife and I feel the gravity blanket is relaxing to use on some level. As for the weight options, the single size is available in a 15, 20 or 25 pound weight at the moment. Gravity advises basing it on 10% or less of your body weight, and my experience is that it's usually better to drop down rather than go up if you're in between weights. And the price for all 3 weights is $189. That price means it's not a budget option, but neither is it the most expensive. The Baloo and the Bearaby, for example, are more expensive. Another downside, though, is that they only have a 30-day return policy and warranty. They also have quite strict rules about returns, so it's worth reading that on their website. Just make sure that you keep the original bag that it comes in. And as with most weighted blankets, you would need to pay for the return shipping costs. As for sleep, again, the look and the soft feel means this is one I'm happy to use in my bedroom, either on its own or on top of other bedding. It's 72 by 48 inches, so if you do share a bed, you can easily keep it to your side. I can't guarantee it will help everyone sleep better, but like using it on the sofa, my wife and I do feel that the weight and the pressure have a relaxing effect. If you're a hot sleeper, I'd probably recommend the cooling duvet cover, which I'll discuss later, but if you're not a particularly hot sleeper or you actually want some warmer bedding, I think the gravity blanket with the microfleece duvet cover is a good choice. Okay, so now let's take a look at the queen size version of this one, or the queen/king as it's sold on their website, which is a whopping 90 by 90 inches and 35 pounds in weight. This thing really is very large. And even though I can understand why some people might want it on their bed because it looks more harmonious rather than having a single size blanket on top of a queen or a king size bed, I do think that personally there's many reasons to choose the single size over the queen or king. Firstly, a 35-pound blanket is much less portable than even the heaviest single, so casually taking it from room to room isn't so easy. And combined with a larger surface area, it's less convenient to wrap around you on the sofa, make your bed or remove the cover. Though admittedly, if you do use it on the sofa, you can create a very satisfying cocoon effect with it. It's more expensive than the single size, so if you're the only one using it, you can save money with a single. On the flip side, if you and your partner both want one, 2 singles would be much more expensive. My main concern though is using it in the bedroom. If you share your bed and one of you doesn't fancy using it one night, or feels uncomfortable or too hot in the night, it's not so simple to keep it to just one side of the bed. And even if you sleep alone, when you change position, I found you can't easily tug the edges or the corner to adjust the way the blanket lies over you because it's so heavy. In my experience then, unless you really can't bear how it looks visually, it's much better to have the flexibility and the ease of use of one single size blanket per person. Okay, so now let's talk about the cooling duvet cover. Now, me personally, I've got a bit of a thing when companies use the word cooling and it doesn't actively cool you. It's just less hot or slightly more breathable than other options. However, I know that's perhaps me just being a bit pedantic about the word cooling, and they have to use some words to describe it after all. But I do think it's worth noting that even though it says cooling weighted blanket, it's not really cooling, it's just more breathable. So let's take a closer look and I'll explain how that works. A key point to understand is that the inner weighted blanket is the same for the original and the cooling weighted blankets. So any cooling is all done with the cover. On their website, they say it's built with a special technical fabric that is breathable and moisture wicking. The actual label describes it more simply as 100% polyester. To be fair though, a lot of athletic wear is made from polyester. If you compare the two covers, you can feel that the microfleece is noticeably fluffier, and the cooling cover has a much flatter finish. And although the standard cover feels softer, I do like the smooth feel of the cooling cover, and I can see how it would be more breathable. It has the same stylish grid design, and the zip, stitching and ties are equally robust. Like the microfleece version, you can only machine wash the cover though. To use around the home, I think the cooling cover has enough aesthetic appeal to have out on the sofa. It's not as cosy and snug as the microfleece, but it's still comfortable and will suit people who just don't like microfleece at all. You'll have the same weight options, so there's a 15, 20 and 25 pound single version, along with a 35 pound queen or king size. And the price isn't much higher either, just $10 more at $199 for single sizes and $259 for the 35 pound blanket, at least at the time of making this video. The most important question then is how it feels in warmer weather, especially if you're a hot sleeper who really wants to try a weighted blanket. So I definitely think it's more breathable and cooler than the microfleece gravity blanket, but it's not cooling, just to be pedantic once again. And compared to other brands that I've tried this year, I think the Bearaby and the Blue are even more breathable, but the gravity is better than the Luxome, the Layla, Weighted Evolution, Y&M and Quility for example. So on balance, I personally prefer the cooling cover as I'm a naturally hot sleeper, but my wife in contrast prefers the soft cozy feel of the signature gravity blanket. So really, it's down to you and your choice. Okay, so now let's take a look at the option which I've been most excited about and I really like, which is their new system for attaching and unattaching the duvet cover. If you had a weighted blanket before, you'll know that having 8, 12 or 16 ties in this case can be a real chore to undo and do up again every time you want to wash it. It can just take a really long time. With the zips around 3 sides and ties on one, it just makes life much easier and much quicker. So let me explain how that works and how much faster it is as well. The Generation 3 gravity blanket that I have looks exactly the same on the outside, and the first step in removing the cover is the same too, with the zip on one side. And actually that side also has some ties, so you can't completely escape them. However, the other 3 sides all have zips and 0 ties, and that really does make removing the cover much easier. I really like how Gravity have clearly listened to people's concerns about the ties, and they've come up with a new solution that works really well. I put the upgraded zipper fastening system to the test and timed myself removing the cover 3 times. On average, it took me 3 minutes to remove the cover and 9 to attach it with the ties. But with the new zip system, it took 1.5 minutes to remove and 5 minutes to attach, which is much quicker. My main complaint is that the internal weighted blanket seems to have slightly larger pocket sizes, measuring 6 by 7 inches instead of 6 by 6. I'm not quite sure why they've increased that size. And like the previous blankets, you can't machine wash that internal blanket. But personally, I'm willing to forgive both those points considering how much more convenient the new zipper system is. So, final verdict. Well, it's kind of difficult because there's different versions that I've looked at, but overall I really like the gravity blanket. I really like their attention to detail, the quality and the way that they feel. So I'd be happy to choose one if I was buying one for myself. And if I was buying for myself, which one would I choose with the knowledge and experience that I've got now? Well, I think I would go with the original single size with the microfleece cover, all the cooling. Both of them are good. Probably if I wasn't a hot sleeper, I'd stick with the microfleece cover just because it's a bit softer and feels nicer against the skin. But if I was a hot sleeper, I'd definitely go with the more breathable, cooling cover. When it comes to the zipper system or the tie system, I think I'd go with the zipper system, but if it wasn't available and I only had the ties, I'd be quite happy with that as well. So I hope that was helpful. Hope the video was useful as well. And if you're interested in buying one, please use the link in the description below. And please also subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep in touch with me and see future reviews. Thanks again. This is Ethan from No Sleepless Nights.